So welcome you guys. Thank you for coming on in to BPM RIA's webinar. That is Broward, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade Real Estate Investors Association, your only local chapter here in South Florida that is approved and in compliance with the National RIA, the National Real Estate Investors Association. We have an awesome webinar for you guys. I will be your co-host, moderator, Alexa, COO at BPM RIA. I have another co-host, moderator, Anish, our CEO. Don't know if he's hanging out all day, but we're happy to have him always. And then we have our amazing host, RLE, president of Concierge Title, as well as Antonio, our real estate expert, REI expert, STR expert, and owner of Antlop Investment Properties. So they're going to get to know you guys and you're going to get to know them in just a moment. But just to get us started on the right foot for our real estate closing process webinar, we are going to start off with an amazing raffle. You guys, I'm just in a great mood. I had some awesome rest this weekend. So that's why I'm gifting someone lucky in here a free membership, $295 value. If you're interested in the raffle today, which is a 1-year membership to BPM RIA, all you need to do is text the word membership to 954-800-6961. So Arlie is one of our vendor partners. She is a corporate member and she is going to be gifting you guys with her time today. And I'm just feeling super generous and I'm going to gift somebody a membership. So good luck. And those details are in the chat for you right now. So lots of upcoming events, you guys. Please take note, go to the website and get registered for all these events. They're all free webinars, so absolutely no excuses. You must register for each and every one of these events. We have our monthly meeting tomorrow night with Marco Kozlowski, Discover the Fastest Path to Cash Flow. I want to see each and every one of you there. So go register on the website for tomorrow night's webinar, monthly meeting webinar. And then next week, we have 2 awesome webinars. We're going to discuss AI tools with Next Million Mastermind, as well as advanced tax strategies for real estate investors and business owners. So see you guys at those webinars. Go press the link in the chat. We have a webinar with Lotside, which is formerly Pelago, later on this month. And then you guys, please keep an eye on the calendar for more events. We'll be working on those for you all, and we're always adding more events to the website. So please take note and please check the website and get registered.
And actually, before we even got on board, we will have another webinar September 12th, which I'm going to do. So that's going to be, it's going to be a full week with me. If you want to put in the chat, if there's a specific topic that you guys want, put in the chat. I'm going to decide on something today. So, or email me and let me know what you guys want to hear.
Yes, you guys, please send me a topic recommendation. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you guys wanting to learn. And my favorite way to keep up with events, super easy, text the word BPM REIA, all one word, to our event line. It's 954-800-6961. And I put those details in the chat as well as my email, so you guys can send me some topic recommendations. Alrighty, guys, our next quick start. This is our last quick start of the year. It is on November 16th and 17th. And if you missed the email, last day to get $100 off the quick start, just use coupon code STAR at checkout, and this ends tonight at 5 p.m. So go, go, go. I'll put the link in the chat for you guys so you can go ahead and take advantage of that $100 discount. And please share with a friend if you know that they need to learn these real estate investing strategies, which we're going to cover wholesaling and rehabbing. We're going to have 4 incredible guest speakers on this training, all local business owners, key people in our power team. This is a money back guarantee. So we want to see you there. This is all virtual, live via Zoom, 2 full days, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Cameras on, microphones on, extremely interactive. So we want to see you guys there. It's the last one of the year, so please take advantage of the discount and this training. It's incredible. All right, members, as you know, you get all the goodies. You get the discounts. You get the membership benefit package through National RIA. You get 4 quarterly networking meeting tickets for free. Your guests come in for a discount. So please go get your memberships now before the next quarterly meeting, which is November, and start getting those benefits and discounts through the National RIA. There's a long list of benefits for you guys, and you can go check that out using the link in the chat. Go to the website and click memberships. Alrighty, last but very not least, coaching and mentoring here at BPM RIA. Some of you may know that we offer one-on-one coaching and mentoring. Some of you may not. For those that have no idea what I'm talking about, please, I invite you to go book a discovery call on the website. We put up 100% of the money for our students' deals. We split the profit 50-50. You're matched with your own personal mentor. We include absolutely everything you need to do deals right now. So go to the website, bpmria.com, click the link in the chat, book a discovery call with me so I can get to know you a little bit better. I want to know what your goals are, and I can also give you a breakdown of everything that's included in the coaching programs that we offer, as well as the pricing. And during this call, I'm more than happy to help schedule a free consultation with a mentor. So please go book your discovery calls, and thank you guys so much for responding to these poll questions. It's super helpful. We want to serve you guys. This is your RIA, you guys. So please, thank you for responding to those polls. We really appreciate that. All right, you guys, if you're interested in funding your education, I have this QR code on the screen right now. Go ahead and scan this QR code. If you need to fund your education, all you need is a minimum 620 credit score, $35,000 verifiable income. It's a soft credit pull, same day response, you guys. So go ahead and scan the QR code. You can send me an email if you want me to send this link to you personally. My email's in the chat for you guys, but I don't want to take any more time. I do want to thank you guys so much for making it out to this webinar today. I know you guys probably had a fun weekend this past weekend, but it's time to lock in and get ready. I always want to take a moment to thank our corporate members. Thank you so much to Arlie, Antonio, and Nish. Thank you guys for taking the time. Thank you, National RIA, for giving us all the amazing things that they give us. And you guys just give yourself a little round of applause just for making it in today. It really shows that you care about your business and your education. But I do want to give Anish a moment to say something before we get started, you guys. Just take a look in the chat. I'll be in there. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Alexa. And again, I want to wish everyone a happy, I hope you have a great weekend, lots of hot dogs, wings, barbecue, fatten it up. And now it's time to get back to business. And I am super excited. So Arlie with Concierge Title has been supporting BRIA and BPM RIA. I want to say it's 10 years or so. Is that about right? Okay, yes. Yeah, the time goes by quick. We've done a ton of deals with Arlie. Not only is she one of our corporate vendor partners, and I'll let her, give her background, but she loves working with real estate investors. I can't even tell you how many times she saved my butt on things, and her service is impeccable. And a lot of you guys, and actually Antonio is also on board, who was a former student. We've had him as a short-term rental expert. And, he's been using a ton of different strategies throughout the years and has been crushing it. And luckily for me, I'm friends with with Arlie and Antonio. Antonio said, hey, we haven't done a closing process. I still get confused every once in a while. When the heck are we going to get Arlie on board to do a class? And so your wish is my command, and that's why we have Arlie today. Again, there's going to be a ton of questions. Put them in the Q&A. If they're super specific, we will have Arlie's information so you guys have it on that end of it too. So Arlie, the floor is yours, and Antonio, you got it, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me see what I can do about sharing my screen. Antonio, do you want to say anything before I start?
Yeah, no. What I want to say is, first of all, thank you for deciding to do this 1 hour webinar. I know how busy you are. I know you have a ton of work, and every title company that I've ever known is like busy 24/7. So I really appreciate you taking the time, listening to my request as well as my team's request. I think some of my team is on the webinar as well, and we're just looking forward to kind of digging in a little bit, particularly on the Alta statement. The value that I've gained is making sure that when I'm working with other title companies that make errors, not yours, right? But when we're working with other title companies, to make sure that we really are clear on what the costs are, and that we fully understand what the breakdowns are, because there are opportunities in there from time to time to save money, and we're talking possibly, hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars. So I believe that's where the real value is for us today as real estate investors.
Yes, and we're gonna dive into it all. So you can see my screen, yes?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so like Anish was telling you, I've been involved with BPM RIA for quite some time, several years. I actually was a student. I was a student when Antonio was a student.
I remember that. Yep.
I wanted to learn the language of investors and the ins and outs. If I'm going to handle closings, I need to know your language. So that is why I signed up for the student program many years ago, and it's helped me throughout these entire many years that I've been working with you guys. So let me see here. All right, so this is my team. This is who I rely on. These are my right hand, left hand ladies. Myself, I have been in the industry since 2000, so 24 years now. I got my title insurance license in 2014. And then in 2022, I decided it was time for me to branch out on my own. And that's where Concierge Title Agency came from. Maggie White is my closing manager. She was actually my first boss 24 years ago. She's the one who got me into this industry, and everything I know is because of Maggie. Annie Roa, she is my executive assistant. She has been my assistant for about 8 years now. She knows the ins and outs of how I get things done, and she is amazing. I don't know how I can be organized without her. And my newest add-on is Jenny Garcia. She is my marketing manager. She is going to be a game changer. I'm very excited to bring her on board. She has over 10 years experience in title. She used to run a title company. So I'm very excited to see what the future has in store for all of us. We are obviously an investor-friendly title company. We handle any kind of closings, from wholesaling, double closings, assignment of closings, you name it, we can handle it. We are attorney affiliated, which means if you need an attorney, foreclosure, landlord tenant, probate, any type of attorney that you need, let me know. And I do have a pool of attorneys that I've worked with for years, and trust and know that you're in good hands if I refer them over to you.
I got a question. What would you say is like the key difference between a title company that has an attorney and that doesn't?
Well, you want to make sure if the title company is not owned by an attorney, you don't have to be owned by an attorney in Florida to be doing what we do. If so, my job wouldn't exist. I was a real estate paralegal for many years. The difference between an attorney owned and a title company is just that. The attorney is the head person there, and they're there to, just in case if something happens, they'll step in. But for the most part, the paralegals handle the file from beginning to end and just bring in the attorney when needed. When you hire a title company that is not owned by an attorney, you need to make sure that they are affiliated with attorneys, because there's limitations of what we can do. We're not attorneys. We cannot practice law. We cannot prepare documents without an attorney. We cannot prepare documents unless we're handling the closings. Those are the only 2 times we can prepare documents. So because we are attorney affiliated, we can offer a little bit more than a regular title company without an attorney. Such as when people don't want to pay for title insurance and they just want a regular quick claim deed. You need an attorney for that, and we do have attorneys on staff for that. So that's a little bit of a difference there.
Cool, thank you. And everyone that is on the webinar, feel free to ask questions. This is a very, we want it to be a dialogue. We want everybody's questions to come up so we can make sure that we deliver the value, not just for you, but for everybody else. So feel free to ask questions, guys. Right, Everly?
Yes, please. I have you guys
Okay.
for an hour, so you know,
Yeah.
I need help filling in time.
And there's a ton to learn too.
Yes, I'm going to briefly go over a little bit of everything. Now, the overview for this, I'm not going to go into contracts. I'm not going to go into negotiations. This is for the investors who already passed that. They've gotten their contract. They're ready to go. Okay, so it's mastering the real estate closing process, understanding the steps and the fundamental safeguards to your investments. Okay. If you have an understanding of your closing process, what to look for, that'll help you in the long run. It'll give you a more of a perception of what questions to ask with your title company. Obviously, I would love for everybody to close with me, but if not, then if you find another title company, you need to know what to ask them. You need to know what to look for. And that's what I'm going to try to show you today. All right. All right, so first things first, once you get your contract in, congratulations, your offer was accepted, it comes over to me. Now what happens? Well, first things first is your searches and the title insurance. Well, what is title insurance? Title insurance is a guarantee of title from beginning of time to the day of closing. So this means we're going to look into what has gone on in title, when it's been changed hands, if there's been probates, if there's been foreclosures, if there's any liens, mortgages have they been paid. That's all comes up in the title searches. Everything that's in public record. We need to make sure that the ownership passed properly. We need to make sure the legal descriptions are correct. We need to make sure that mortgages and liens have been paid in full. Okay, we need to make sure that once the seller passes title over to the buyer, you have clear title. Okay. Who pays for title insurance? Well, there's customaries in different counties, and there's negotiating, no matter what county you are in. So let's say in the Broward and Miami-Dade, it's customary that buyer pays and chooses the title company. Most of the rest of the Florida, it's customary that seller chooses and pays for the title insurance policy. So when our negotiations come in, it's okay, well, you are the buyer in Palm Beach, but you want to keep control over that. You want to make sure you get that contract. Guess what? You're going to offer to pay for that title insurance to make it more enticing for the seller. If the seller doesn't want to pay title insurance, you're going to take care of everything. You're going to pay closing costs and pay for title insurance. Your contract is going to go up in views when you're making your offers. Okay, so it's all negotiating tools. And is title insurance required? It's not legally required to have an owner policy, but it's highly, highly recommended. And I'll go into a couple of scenarios in a little bit of why. Yes.
I have a question. So who pays for the title insurance as related to the FARBAR as is contract? It's the contract that I use. It's paragraph 9C, right? And then option 1 is that the seller designates the closing agent, correct? And that's what we're talking about now. So if the seller chooses, then the seller pays for title insurance, correct?
So if that box is checked, the seller pays for title insurance and pays for all the searches. The second option is buyer chooses, which means the buyer chooses the title company, pays for the owner policy and for all the searches. Now there's a third option, which is the Miami-Dade clause, which means the buyer chooses and pays for title. However, the seller will pay for the searches. So it kind of splits the responsibility on who pays what. So that is also a negotiating tool for you to be able to use when you're in negotiations prior to getting your contract accepted.
Who came up with that Miami-Dade Broward region? Sounds like some people were like, we're different.
Somebody in
South
Miami.
Florida. We want it our way.
Yes. Miami is special. So
Miami is special, yeah, right.
The entire state, we're the only one with that clause.
You know, right? Thank you for that.
You're welcome. All right. So a little bit about the commitment. The title commitment is a search over the public records. This is everything that's been recorded to let everybody know, hey, we're here. there is a tax lien, there is code violation that's been recorded, there's any foreclosures, mortgages. So anything that's in public record, we need to look at it and make sure it's been satisfied. If it hasn't been satisfied, that's what we need to get done prior to closing. The municipal lien search is anything that is not recorded in the public records, such as utilities, permits, code violations that have not been recorded yet. So they're in the beginning process. You received notification, yet your grass is overgrown, and you're gonna pay $250 a day if you don't get it fixed. That is before it gets recorded. If you don't get it fixed within that time period, then it gets recorded, then now everybody knows that there's a code violation. So municipal lien search is anything that's not in public records, and commitment is everything that is in public records. Okay?
Got a question. Title commitment and municipal lien search, as soon as the contract comes in, let's say I send you a contract, I got the property under contract, send it to Aralee. Do we start that off as soon as you get the contract? Is that customary, or should we wait like a little while? Because I know they do cost money, correct?
Yes, they do costs, and these are hard costs. So we don't usually start incurring costs until after your inspection period is over. So you have to do your inspections, make sure that, hey, I am moving forward. The deposit is now, hard. So now I go ahead and order the searches. Unless I get authorization from you as an investor, hey, Arlie, I got this contract in, go ahead and run the searches. It all should be good. And I understand there are hard costs that you're starting to, I'll go ahead and order those searches for you. Okay. But we don't typically order these searches without a contract. I do get calls in all the time about, hey, can you run the lien search and the title search on these properties I'm thinking about buying? I don't, because that gets expensive, because I need you guys to pay up front, and then we'd run it. And if you don't decide to buy, you don't get that money back. So it does get expensive. There's ways to look through the public records you're on your own to see if there is anything that, brings up a red flag. But as far as the official searches are concerned, we don't do that until we are authorized to start incurring costs.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm also hearing is that as a good investor, what we should be doing is some kind of preliminary searching ourselves, meaning let's see what we're really getting into here, and do some of these searches, going into public records, going into the different city resources to find out if there's any open code violations. So it's not like this huge surprise.
Correct.
Ask me how I know. So
and this is all things you learn as a student with a niche.
Yeah.
He'll teach you how to do the simple searches, so you know what to look out for, and you're not caught with something that, oh my gosh, it has like $1 million in tax liens. This is never going to happen.
Which is no big deal. $1 million in tax, no big deal. I wanted to ask you another question. I know we are doing a couple deals together. I think we're gonna talk about that deal where the underwriting didn't catch the second mortgage or whatnot, right? So I'm not gonna spoil it for everybody. True story just happened a couple weeks ago. I'll let her lead as far as that story is concerned. Go ahead.
All right. Hold on. All right, so these are my underwriters. I rely on these 3 companies to tell me what my roadmap is to get you to closing. Caddick is my newest underwriter. I love them. Fidelity is another amazing underwriter, and the fund is I am the only non-attorney member of the fund, which is great. It's a little bragging rights for me. I've been with the fund for over 20 years, and I have a great relationship with them. So I'm very grateful for them and allowing me to continue our relationship.
I got a question. What exactly do the underwriters do?
So that leads me into my next thing. So the underwriters, my underwriters, they're the ones who ensure title. Okay, so once I say, okay, the inspection period is over, or you give me the authorization to move forward and order searches, I put in an order with one of my underwriters. And I say, here, there's a new property, new sale. Let me know what I need to do in order to get this closed. So it takes about 48 to 72 hours to get a search turned around and back over to me. I get what is called a title commitment. This is my commitment to you that I'm going to be issuing a title insurance policy once things are cleared. So the page 1 of the title commitment is Schedule A. This page tells you everything you need to know about the property and face value. So our file number, who the issuing office is, that's me, the property address. It tells you what date the commitment ended. So it starts from the beginning of time, and public records, as you may think by now, it's going to be real time. And like, as soon as you record something, it's there and everybody's going to know it's there. It's not true. There's always a delay. So this commitment, for example, the search ended July 9th. Okay. So what happens is, I know the search ended July 9th, but we're not closing until August 10th, let's say. So in order to close what's called the gap, I have to order a pre-closing update that closes the gap from July 9th to as close as to the closing date as possible. Because in Florida, if something happens within the time period, the gap period, the dark period, the underwriter is automatically responsible for that issue, for that title issue. So we need to close that gap as much as possible. So right before closing, I will always run a new update and hopefully it's cleared. Because if something comes up in that update, let's say a lien got recorded, right? But right the day before, I have to stop, look at it, and come into compliance. Okay, so we got to close that gap. So that commitment date is very, very important. Okay, if you're closing on your as a buyer and you're closing on a property, if you request to see the update, make sure that the title is still clear from the time you ran the search through the time that we're about to close. Okay, because if something comes up, that's an issue. This also tells you how much the policy is going to be good for, which is typically your purchase price. Typically, why do I say typically? It's because sometimes you get a really good deal and you can find a property because of whatever circumstances, you can find a property for $50,000, let's say. But the property appraised value and the aftermarket value is over $500,000, okay? Issuing you a policy for $50,000 is not going to do you any good because it's not the value of that home. So the proposed insurance amount is going to be either the value of the home or your purchase price, whatever is going to give you the most benefit. If you have a $50,000 policy on a $500,000 home and there's an issue, you only get $50,000 worth of legal fees paid. So it's this much in comparison to the entire amount of your property. Go ahead.
Just out of professional curiosity, the higher the proposed or the insured amount, the higher the title policy costs you. I know it's not a lot of money, but I would imagine it's works.
The policy amount is based on your the policy. So the higher the amount, the higher the premium. But again, you don't want to have a $500,000 house with a $50,000 coverage. It's not going to get you'll get not even a new roof. Right, with that, yeah. You'll get like your grass mowed. I don't know, but it doesn't benefit you in any way to keep your title insurance low, because once that threshold is met, you're on your own for the remaining legal balances. Okay. The next portion is this is for who your buyer is. And obviously, if you have an assignment, that will be updated to the new buyer, or if you're going to keep it and then sell it again to the B and C buyer, that handles on the second closing. The section B is the mortgage amount. Lenders will always require you to obtain mortgagee title insurance. Okay, this covers their financial issue. That's interest, and that is it. It does not cover you. So let's say you get a closing and decide everything is clear. There's nothing I need to do. The lender has their coverage. That's it. I'm done. Okay. If there is an issue that comes up, there is nothing that covers you. You are still going to be financially responsible to protect your interest. The lender is covered under their policy. And in all honesty, you're not saving very much money by removing the simultaneous policy from the owners. Okay, you're not paying full price for both policies. You're paying a simultaneous amount for the second one. So it really doesn't save you much money if you say, I'm not going to get owner policy. It's for your interest. If the lender is requiring you to get a policy for their financial interests, why wouldn't you protect your own financial interests? Okay, there's a logic to their madness. The next part is it tells you who the actual sellers is, who is the current owners. You may get a contract in and you have a husband and wife, not realizing that there is a third person that they included in title several years ago. That person will need to sign the contract as well. We'll know the difference in titles, if any. Hopefully everything is good. But when this comes back and I see number 4 saying that the seller or the owner is 3 people and there's only 2 on the contract, I will be reaching out and finding out what happened to that third person. They may have passed away. So then I'll need to know how to move forward after that. Okay. And then the legal description is also listed. We do have to compare legal descriptions on all the deeds, because if there is a discrepancy, we would need to get one of those deeds cleared. Those are title issues as well. Any questions on page 1?
Yeah, guys, feel free to ask questions about this. I know this is a lot of good information. This is very valuable. This is the type of stuff that when we pay really, really close attention can make a really big difference for you. So guys, feel free to ask away. All questions are welcome.
Yes,
And make sure
please.
you ask in the Q&A.
Okay, so this is B2. This is page 2 of your commitment. This is extremely important for you to actually pay attention to. I always give a copy of the commitments to all parties as it comes in. And I say, please see attached. I will highlight what I see needs to be cleared, or I will say all cleared, nothing unusual, and we'll move forward with closing. And what I do is I have a highlighted version of the commitment in my e-file for every single one of my closings. So I can easily pull up the commitment, go to page 2 and see what's highlighted and what I need to clear. And I'll check mark as I clear them off.
So we're still, and I'm sorry to interrupt. So we're still talking about the commitment that we get from the underwriter. The first section we talked about was section A. Now we're going into section B, and I believe there's 2, right? There's schedule B1 and B2. So this is the B1.
Correct.
Okay.
So this one is what I like to call your roadmap. This tells you what needs to be done to get to closing. It outlines everything that was recorded in public records that hasn't either been cleared or you need to have more a look into. So for instance, this one, schedule B1, number 5, taxes, the 4th installment wasn't paid for the taxes. So I will make sure to collect that on the closing statement. There is 2 mortgages, a claim of lien, a violation. There is a PACE, which is technically a 3rd mortgage, PACE loan. There's a lis pendens, which means that it's in foreclosure. And then there's a couple of liens on a name. So it could be a similar name, it can be the person, but I need to look more into that. I need to send a copy of that lien to the seller and say, hey, is this you? If it's you, we need to clear it. If it's not, we'll have an affidavit signed at closing, which clears that requirement. Okay. And then there's a notice of commencement. What's a notice of commencement? It's something that there's a builder who is putting a new roof, or you getting a water heater, or any type of improvement to your house. They're going to record a notice of commencement. So if you do sell or decide to, hey, I'm not going to pay, it's going to come up on lien, and I'm going to be reaching out to that contractor to make sure they were paid. So all very important. Now, why is this the most important page that you need to pay attention to? As Antonio knows, a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, we had a closing down in Miami-Dade. I submitted for the request of the title commitment. I received the title commitment back. It had 1 mortgage, a couple of code violations. It was good, nothing too extravagant. We got that cleared. We got to closing. We closed. I want to say a month after closing, I've received a phone call from Miami-Dade County saying, hey, you guys missed us. We had a 30-year-old mortgage that nobody even paid attention to. Well, this is exactly why we get title insurance. I let Antonio know. I gave him his policy, the commitment, all the supporting documents. I said, here, send this to this email address. And with it less than a week, the underwriter paid and closed out that mortgage. So it saved him over $6,000 for an unpaid mortgage that nobody noticed. Okay. Because you would think at 30 years, it'll drop off. No, it's at actually 35. So they have more time after that 30-year mortgage to collect on that debt.
Yeah, imagine my, you know, just to give you guys an idea from my perspective, you know, we're closed, we're, you know, halfway through the renovation. All of a sudden I get a call, hey, you know, we missed something, you know, or the underwriter missed something, you know, there's $6,000 owed. I was like, what? I was like, come on, like we closed already. And so the good part was that, again, I had title insurance. And moreover, it was really important that Ara Lee made it very easy for me, because like she said, she sent me the documentation that I needed, everything, where I should contact, who I should contact. And it was literally a couple emails, you know, and they immediately took care of it, which I was really happy. I thought, you know, insurance companies are going to take a long time. They're going to ask me, they were like, okay, what's this? You know, etc. They asked a few questions, had it paid off within max 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, which was pretty incredible. So I'm really happy, obviously really happy that that I've been getting title insurance, because this was a first time for me.
Yes. I remember you saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to file a claim. It doesn't come up against me. It's not, it doesn't black mark me. It doesn't matter. It's not like health insurance or auto insurance. If you file a claim, they're going to drop you. This is why you buy title insurance, for situations exactly like this. I'm not going to want to spend $6,000 on a mortgage after I move into a property or buy a property. That's why you have title insurance. There is another example for another investor of ours who we closed, and in that gap period, in that dark period, somebody recorded a quitclaim deed. So who's responsible for that? She bought title insurance and is now, you know, it's been in litigation, it's been worked on. But if without title insurance, she would have to be fully responsible for all the legal fees in defending her place in title. But you know, if they come in first, they get the first place.
They get the property first, whoever records it first, right?
But that, again, why it's very important to have title insurance. I cannot stress enough, if you're going to save money, removing title insurance is not it.
Yeah.
90% of the time, title is good, everything is good, there's no need for it, but then you get that one time that will just devastate you if you don't, especially if this is what you do for a living and you're buying and selling properties all the time. You're increasing your risk. If you're just buying property without title insurance, and this is what you do all the time.
Yeah, you're buying naked, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, you're by yourself on that one if you don't buy insurance. In the long run,
it can cost you thousands.
It might, yeah, and it could get really expensive. I've heard horror stories in the past. We do have a couple questions, and guys, if you guys are in the chat, Dan, if you could do me a favor, ask your questions in the Q&A section, not in the chat, okay? We do have a couple questions. Do you see those, Aralee?
I wasn't paying attention, but I'm pulling them up because I'm just
perfect. Yeah, we got one from Robin Hood. We have another one from Steve Lorenzo. Elizabeth has a question, so we got it. This is great. Right. I love it. I love the engagement, guys. Thank you.
So the cost, I'll go over it once I get to the closing statement. You'll see an example of what the actual cost for title insurance will be. Let's see, please ensure, can you please explain a little bit more? Mortgage was not recorded with the UCC, missed or left in some documentation. I need a little bit more detail. So if a mortgage was not recorded in the public records and now they're coming after, or is it?
Yeah, Daniel, if you can expound and answer and ask the question in the question and answer, that would be great. We have another question from Steve Turner. When time permits, what is the fee what is the fee to do a red flag preliminary lien search in the case of an unusually fast track purchase?
Well, that all depends on the municipality, and we'll get into that too. But each municipality in Florida have their own rules, have their own timelines. Statutes require them to provide you the lien search within 15 business days. That does not include weekends or holidays. Some have rush options, some do not. For example, in North Lauderdale, there are no rushes, nothing. So you're going to receive your lien search within 15 business days, usually on the 15th day. If you're in Hollywood, they do have rushes and you will receive your lien search within 48 hours. So that's an open-ended question, and they charge their own fees, and that it can go anywhere from $200, and I've seen it go as expensive as almost $700 with all the rushes and the searches and all that good stuff. So that's why it's not really always ordered. Probably if you're just looking at a property and you're interested in it, you may want to make a couple phone calls on your own, or go on the city's websites to see if you see anything outrageous. But the actual cost of it can get costly. Very, very
Yeah,
costly.
and I wanted to add to that, you know, as a real estate investor, you know, we could close within, you know, 24 hours, right? But lien and title has to come in. As soon as lien and title comes in, you look at it, everything's clear, you could close the next day pretty much, as long as you have the money. So that's something that you want to be talking to your sellers, the folks that you're buying the properties from. You want to make sure that this is very clear. Hey, we can close this as if you're lucky enough to get a seller that wants to close that fast, right? If he's motivated enough, you tell him, hey, you know, we could close as soon as lien and title come in. You know, everything else is in place.
Yes, I always recommend, if you're wanting to do a fast closing, have at least 16 business days on your contract for a closing date, and letting them know we'll close immediately once the searches are in, but we can't guarantee it because lien searches are completely out of our control, completely. We're relying on a third party, which is the government and the city government, to provide us. And sometimes they're closed on Fridays. Some people, some of them have half days during the week. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. There's no control.
It is what it is. We have more questions. Are you good with that, Arely?
Sure. What question?
Okay. From Lorenzo Gilbert, do investor deals work out better with or without a real estate agent? So it's a little bit outside of the context in which we're talking about title right now. Lorenzo, I'll take that question on. It depends on what's going on with the deal. In certain circumstances, you're going to have to pay out the real estate agent. I would say, in my case, because I do direct to seller marketing, I prefer not to have, the less people involved in the deal, in my opinion, the better, right? There's a lot less opinions. It's like too many cooks in the kitchen type of thing. That's happened to me before, where one person comes with an opinion about exactly what it is that you're doing, and they go and they confuse the seller, or they confuse the parties in the transaction. So I would say that it really is, it's deal dependent. It just depends on the deal, where you source the deal. If the person feels more comfortable with the real estate agent being involved, by all means, then it becomes a question about cost. So it really is deal dependent. If you have further questions, if you'd like for us to clear up some, if you want to ask a follow-up questions, feel free. But thank you for the question.
There's some real estate agents who are investor savvy, so they do have the negotiations tools that, you know, if you allow them to just go and get your properties for you, that benefits you. If you want to handle it on your own, and you're doing your own deals and you're handling your research and reaching out to sellers, then, you know, you don't have to represent, you don't have to have a realtor. But it goes both ways. Like, what do you want in the end? Do you want more, you know, people looking over everything? Do you want to hire a realtor? Because it's all to you, and there's no right or wrong way of doing it. But if you do get a realtor, make sure that they are investor savvy and they understand what your exit strategy is, and they understand what your end goal is. Are you going to wholesale it? Are you going to fix and flip? Are you going to hold it and rent it out? they need to know these things so they know how to negotiate it. And if they're investor savvy, they'll know how to negotiate it on your behalf.
Mm-hmm. So we have another question from Elizabeth Sangili. If you are doing an assignment, should you record the property before selling?
If you're doing an assignment,
Should you
like
record the property before selling?
there's unless you're doing your own interest to the property to let everybody know that there's, you know, that you have interest in that property and you're not going to release your interest until you get paid. That's up to you. We don't handle those kind of filings. That's before the contract happens. If you're assigning it, then what we look for is the assignment of contract and a JV agreement if there is one. And then we'll know how to create the closing statement. My closing statement has an example of assignment property. Then what is recorded is the deed from the seller to your BC buyer, your assigned buyer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sad Botros has a question. Any recommendations for hard money lenders in Miami-Dade area for fix and flip projects? I would say check out the BPM RIA website. There's it's the same folks we already work with.
Yeah, it's a whole slew of them on there. Anish has great relationships with all of them. So yeah, go on the website and they can guide you. Perfect.
So yeah, I want to leave some questions for the end. I wanted to make sure that you're able to get through at least to the Schedule B2s.
All right, so Schedule B2, these are all your exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rule, right? So we're going to issue title insurance. We're going to say that, yes, we looked at everything. Everything looks good. We're closing. However, there are a list of items that we will not cover. These are usually your easements. You can't do anything about easements. Your water company has to get on your property. Your electric has to get on your property somehow, and they need permission. So the easements are always going to be there. Your covenants and conditions, if there's an association, this lets everybody know what the rules and regulations are for that community. So that's not going to be covered under your policy. And what's also going to be not covered under your policy is if you take a property subject to a mortgage. So if you get a good deal and you're taking it subject to a mortgage, which means you're not going to pay off the mortgage, but you as the buyer are going to be wholly responsible for that mortgage on behalf of the seller, that is going to be an exception to your policy. So if that mortgage decides to foreclose, you cannot claim a claim or put a claim in on that foreclosure to that policy because you took that property as subject to that mortgage. If there's a code violation, which more savvy investors will take on properties with thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of code violations, knowing that when they fix up the property and they go to the magistrate, they can negotiate that to $5,000. So that code violation is going to be listed as an exception. If you're taking the property on with anything other than clear title, those issues will be listed on the exception of the policy, Schedule B2. Okay, does that make sense? Good. All right. So this is what the exceptions are for. It will be on every single one of your policies. If you decide not to get a survey, the survey exceptions on there. So surveys are very important. If you don't get a survey and then find out that the shed is halfway on the other person's property, and now they're putting a fence up and your shed is gone, it's not a claim. You didn't get a survey. So surveys are important to know what your boundaries are to that property to make sure everything is cleared. Okay.
When they say get a scratched up
marked up title commitment?
Yeah, marked up title commitment. What are they referring to?
So marked up title commitment, when somebody asks me for that, what I do is on page 1, I mark off what has been cleared. So the title commitment date will be changed to date of recording. Okay. Schedule B2, I'll put a big X and say items 1 through 13 have been satisfied. So you know that I've gone through every single one of these items and either cleared it or is going to be cleared at closing. Payoffs obviously don't get cleared till closing. Okay. And then Schedule B2, I will mark off, if you have a survey, I will mark off the survey exemption. If you had a lien search, I'll mark off the lien search exception. So that will tell you what your final policy will look like,
Mhm.
okay, more or less. So if you see something as exceptions, then you'd be like, hey, I'm not taking the mortgage subject to, that needs to be paid off.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll order a payoff, we'll remove it from Schedule B. So it's some commitments is not something you just take and put it on the side. You take it and you read it and you
Right,
ask
yeah.
me all the questions you need to, like, what is this? And I'll explain to you why it's on there and what we have to do to clear it.
Got it. That's great. So I think that's a little piece of value people could take is if you're in doubt, ask for it to be marked up, and then, you know, that'll be your cheat sheet. You looked at the things that weren't marked out and find out, hey, what's going on with this? Why is this still an exception?
Exactly.
Perfect. We have a couple more questions.
Sure.
We do have a couple minutes left. As you can see, title can get like super exciting, and we could probably talk about this like all day. At least I could. I'm a big nerd. So, but anyways, we have a question from Daniel Stanley. My question was related. Daniel Stanley says, my question was related to the situation where the $6,000 mortgage was filed a month after closing. How did this get let off the documents or UCC filings and then popped up 1 month later?
Okay, it didn't pop up. So what happened is human error. So probably the examiner who prepared my commitment saw it, thought it was, or maybe in their mind, oh, it expired, it's over 30 years old, like, let's move on, and didn't put it in as a requirement. So human error is huge. Like if the real estate industry all of a sudden booms and we're getting order after order, people always want to rushes, and the underwriters and their examiners only have so many hours in the day. It happens. It happens. We don't like it to happen. We minimize the when it happens. We try to do everything we can to minimize it, which in this case, like if the seller wasn't deceased and it wasn't an error that we were dealing with, the owner of the property would be like, hey, I have 2 mortgages. And then, which has happened. I've come back and I sent off my commitment and I show only one, and somebody comes back, oh, no, I have a second one too. Somehow I was missed. It happens. So it checks and balances. That's why we send it out to everybody. So, hey, this is what we're finding. And if the seller shows that, hey, I have 2 mortgages, I don't have one, then they need to be a little honest. We're relying on them to let us know that we have the correct information on there. Okay.
Perfect. We got another question from Alexander Ruiz. He asks, what links or websites would you recommend an investor use before submitting a contract to order title, etc.? In other words, what should we do first before pulling the trigger and sending the contract to you?
Well, you can always go on the public records websites. There's one for every county, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach County, depending on which one. And you can do a soft search of the owner's names, of the legal description. And I know BPM RIA has a software that is geared for investors that'll tell you what pretty much what's going on the property. I know, Antonio, you can tell them more about that.
Yeah, what I do is I basically do what's called like a pencil search. It's not really like a full-on pencil search because I am limited in my ability to do title, right? But a pencil search, essentially what you do is you go on to the public records websites for that particular county or that particular town, and you start using different descriptors of the property, such as folio number, the actual address, meaning the, 2221 Northwest, right? You use that, you use the person's name, and you essentially start investigating the property to see if there's anything attached to the property as far as any liens or violations are concerned. Anything and everything. What you do is you go to public records and just start investigating it as best as you can. At the end of the day, you're eventually going to get a lien and title search from your title company, from ARALEE. And like I said at the beginning, you do want to do some preliminary searching, as well as, and if you take it on as like an investigator type of hat when you're purchasing the property, also ask your seller, hey, do you know of any liens or violations? Do you know of anything going on in the background? If the property has what is it called? High impact windows, hey, how'd you buy that? Was there a loan that was pulled out? Did you get it through PACE? Did you use PACE to get it? You do have to do a little bit of your own work, and you also have online resources, right?
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
hope that answers your question. We have another one from Christy A. Are title companies required to do municipal lien searches, and is the closing agent required to disclose at closing?
So I do a municipal lien search for every single one of my closings. I know when I first started, there was no such thing as a municipal lien search. There really wasn't. We would do our title search and we would get things closed and that be that. I remember when there was a slight turn of events and now there's a lot of municipal lien search companies that have popped up. So you as a buyer, if you don't want this municipal lien search, you will be signing a hold harmless, acknowledging that you're closing without the lien search. So anything that comes up after you buy it, permits, code violations that were not recorded, water. I just closed one last week with the water company. They owed over $6,000. So that wasn't a recorded lien. They just kept racking up the bill, you know? So if you're not going to get a lien search so you can get this closed right away, sure. You're going to sign a hold harmless, acknowledging that you take on full responsibility, and we move forward with closing. It's very simple. It's not a requirement, but it is in your very best interest to have one done. Okay.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And then we have one quick, well, not quick, it's a longer question, but I think we'll answer this as we go along. But the question is from Robin Hood. It says, don't forget, please, for purposes of us getting a general idea what it's going to cost us as an investor and what will it cost us in title insurance. Can you give us an example of the title insurance besides typical costs for the lender's insurance policy, and then how much it is for the additional for the owner's policy? What is the formula? What's the rate?
I'll go
X
line
loan
by
amount?
line on the closing statement of what all the fees are. And that'll be
Perfect.
based on that certain amount, because the documentary stamps, intangible taxes, and doc stamps on the mortgage and title insurance all vary based on the purchase price. So I have an example of
Perfect.
what something's going to look like.
Okay, awesome. So stick around, Robin Hood. We're going to get you that answer coming up.
So this is the municipal lien search. This was for one of my investors who knew about these things and were expecting it to look this way, you know, code violations, permit issues, and, you know, pass through water. They used it as a negotiating tool in the beginning. So when they got to the lien search and they came in, it wasn't a huge surprise. If you're taking on a property with the code violations and the permits, you will sign a hold harmless acknowledging the lien search came in, there's code violation, a permit issue, and we will take care of that post-closing. It was, you know, if it's a good deal, if it's a good enough deal, you're going to take it on with these things on there and not make the seller clear these out, because it may be thousands and thousands.
Don't worry about it, seller. We got your back.
Yeah, it's a negotiating tool. And, you know, if things come up like this during the contract, even if it's after inspection period and the seller can't pass on clear title, that's your out, that's your exit. Okay, the seller has to, if in the contract it says seller is to pass on clear title and seller to close out all permits and code violations, and they refuse, you're not stuck with the property. You have a back and you don't lose your deposit, because the seller says, oh, wait, I didn't know about it was going to be that much, so I'm not going to do it now. You're going to have to take it on. And you say, no, in the contract that says you're clearing this out. If you don't, then we'll back out, and then you get your deposit back. So you have outs throughout the contract.
Perfect.
So sometimes, not all the time, I will have to order an estoppel, which means that I need to contact the association for that property and find out what is owed, what is owed from the buyer, the seller, if there's an HOA approval that needs to be done by the buyer, and so on. It's very important that if you find out that there's an HOA, do your research prior to, so that way if there's an HOA approval, sometimes can take up to 30 days. So there goes your 2-week closing. So if you want something done quickly, do your research. There's an HOA, contact the HOA and say, hey, is there an approval process? And if you're assigning it, then you got to make your new buyer go through the whole approval process, because nobody's going to close without their approval letter.
Absolutely. And guys, take it from experience. As soon as you get that, if you know there's an HOA, start doing research right away. You'd be surprised on both ends how fast some HOAs move, but you'll be surprised. There's some HOAs, like we just bought a house maybe 2 weeks ago, I think it was, Arely, 30 Southwest. And boy, it was a challenge contacting this HOA. And then on one hand, it's challenging having to follow up and, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Where's the estoppel? And then on the other hand, your fees are going up. And I usually am dealing with properties in pre-foreclosure. So the longer they take, the more the payoff is going to be on my end, including their payoff, because it's not like what's due to them keeps going down, right? So yeah, guys, as soon as you put this under contract, or even right before, start making phone calls, get in touch with your HOA, find out if there's any. Another issue that I've come across is special assessments. When I go to sell the property, I mainly wholesale my properties, meaning I get them, I kind of fix them up a little bit, and I put them on the MLS. And for those folks to be able to purchase, there's so much information that that their lenders require on the B2C transaction that, yeah, the closer you are to this HOA, the better it's going to work out for you and for your title people.
Yes. All right, so I'm gonna go. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. HOA, I have to find out. And then it's also a negotiating tool for you too. So if you find out, like in this one, there's $7,500 in back pay for HOA, and you're supposed to be paying all closing costs, including the HOA, you're gonna go back, Mr. Seller, I didn't realize you owed almost $8,000. Like we need to re-talk about this. So, you'll get copies of all the searches come in, I send them out immediately so that everybody has it in their files. Okay. And also ask questions. I can't stress enough. All right. Now we're talking about the money. All right. Money, money, money. So this is what's called the ALTA statement. Back in the day, it used to be HUD. Okay. Which was a little more difficult. I think the ALTA statement is a little easier to go through. I know it's a little hard to see, so I'm going to just make it bigger. Okay. All right, so the right side is the buyer side, the left side is the seller side. Okay, the top is the purchase price. So all title search, doc stamps, all taxes are based on that $275. Okay. The next one is closing costs credit to seller. So when I get a contract in from my investors and I see that the seller is paying all closing costs, I will be putting a credit on there. And what I do is I keep everything separate so everybody can visually see what actually is buyer costs and what actually is seller costs. And there's some costs on here that will not be included in that closing cost credit, such as the escrow holdback for water, because the seller is getting that money back after closing. That's to make sure that the water bill gets paid. So that is not going to be included in that credit because they're already receiving that money back. Okay, so I'll go line by line and I'll add up how much the actual closing cost for that seller is. So the prorations, there's two portions to your tax bill. You see one tax bill and it's paid at the same time. However, there are two portions of that tax bill with two different calendar years. For example, the city town taxes, their fiscal year is September to September. So we're coming up to the end of that fiscal year for that. And that is paid in advance. So on that tax bill that the seller pays every year, that portion, that small amount that goes to the city is paid for future use. So that's why on the closing statement, you're going to see a credit to the seller from the closing date to September 30th. Okay. So this one, it was a small credit to the seller of $78.77. What happens October 1st? Okay. So what happens October 1st is now you're going to bring that down to the buyer because the buyer will be paying that assessment at tax season in November. So the buyer will be receiving a credit from the 1st of the month, 1st of October through the closing date. Okay, so it kind of switches and then it goes back to normal in January. Tax season is very confusing. Again, ask whenever you see a closing statement. I will always, when I'm doing the seller docs, I will always ask the title company to be sure to separate the taxes because it's in the benefit of the seller to receive their credit back. So there's always going to be, unless there's no city taxes, which is very rare to see, you'll always see a little bit of a credit to the seller. The second line is the taxes that are paid in arrears. In Florida, taxes are paid in arrears, and that fiscal year is January to December. So tax season for 24 is not up yet. That comes in November. So we base it on last year's taxes, so that their credit to the buyer is from January through the closing date, which is always a bigger credit to the buyer. Okay. Well, unless it's like January, but as the further along in the year, the bigger the credit is, because the buyer is not responsible for those taxes for the portion of the year that they did not own the property. They will be responsible for paying the full taxes in November when they receive the tax bill. Okay.
Yeah, so basically, if these folks right here owed 6,790, let's say it's 6,800, they would only, the seller, let's say it was 50% through the year, would be 30,400 would be credited towards the buyer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the rest he would be responsible for because he's living in the property now, or he owns the property now from whatever,
Correct.
July forward to December.
Correct. Correct.
Did everybody catch that? I want to make sure that if anybody has questions on this, because this is where it's at right here, guys.
The taxes, make sure that the proration is correct, and so on. All right, so the next portion, these are either going to be your loan charges or your title charges. This one was a cash transaction. In this case, it was cash loan to answer your question. Owner policy on this one is $1,550 based on a $275 loan purchase price. The simultaneous will be $350. The settlement charges will be $595, but there is no loan charges, so you don't see that $350 on there. It's just a flat $1,550. On all closing statements, you're going to see that the owner policy is optional. Yes, it is optional. We can remove it if you don't want it. Your settlement fee will go up because now you have to pay attorney fees. So attorney fees will be on there in lieu of the title insurance. Again, you're not saving much money, and you're taking on all financial risks. Our settlement fees, you're never going to see a separate wire fee, a separate digital storage fee, courier fee. Those are all included in my closing fee. So you can have 10 wires, or you can have 1 wire. You can have 5 FedExes, or you can have no FedExes. Bottom line, the settlement fee covers those. So I do have special prices for my investors that come through BPM RIA versus, a normal person coming off the street, and I only have one deal with them. So this one,
and I wanted, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, through the deals that I've done in the past with different title companies, I've come to recognize that sometimes, or a lot of the time, you'll look at the settlement fee that the title company is charging you, and sometimes it's pretty absurd. I've seen my buyers, because they want to go through a different title company. I'll tell them, hey, look, I have a preferred title company. We've been doing this for such a long time, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of folks will say, no, I've been doing the same thing with my own person. But that person, when you're looking at this Alta statement at the end, and you're looking at how much they're getting charged, right? Sometimes it's a lot of money. Some of these title companies will charge you $1,200 document review fee, and then on top of the settlement fee. So why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because, again, guys, this part right here, this HUD, this Alta statement is where you guys can potentially save hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, if you really look at it whenever you're doing your own deals.
right.
Right.
I've looked at closing statements that they're trying, like if I do seller docs, for instance, for Antonio's files, I'll get a prelim statement in, and he's like, oh, it's fine. I'm like, Antonio, you're okay with a $200 wire fee? He's like,
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And it's dumb little things like that. Yeah. And it's 100, and that's $200, $300. We're here trying to save money on our everyday stuff. Let me not buy that on Amazon or whatever you would save money on. Let me not buy that coffee. But in reality, where the money really is at, and as far as saving big dollars, is really paying attention to these numbers right here. And this is pretty much the whole reason I requested from Ariely we do this, the webinar, is to look at this particular part of the whole closing process.
yes. And what was I saying? Oh, come back to me.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that I don't want to get charged a $200 wire
I got
fee.
sidetracked. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. And then you'll always find somebody to do something cheaper. I am not the most expensive, but I am not the cheapest either. If somebody comes to me like, I found somebody who can do it for $250, will you do it? No, I will not do it for $250, because you're going to see, one, the customer service is not there. Two, you're going to see all these other little charges. They're going to nickel and dime you everywhere to come out to the same price that, I was telling you, if you add everything in, it's the same thing. So it's just all visually, and, I would have to look on their closing statement to see what they're charging apples to apples and compare the two. And if they're really cheaper, if you really want, God bless, let me know if you have any questions. I have no problem asking questions, even if I don't have the file. All right. So the abstract title search, that is negotiated between who pays it. So it's Miami-Dade, seller, or buyer chooses. So this one, the seller pays for it. It's $200. Seller doc prep fee and so on is $850. The escrow water holdback is $250. Why do I have this there? Because the utility company is the only company that can place a lien against that property post-closing. So what happens if I don't have that there and the seller decides, I'm not paying that last water bill? Bye. Good luck trying to get that last water bill out from them. So you'll be responsible for them. And there we go. If I have the $250, that gives them an incentive to pay that, and I will refund them once they prove to me that it's been paid. Condos are usually on master meters, so you're not going to see a holdback on master meters, period. And if the buyer is taking on the property as is, and they're paying for everything, that they know it's a good deal, and they're paying the water, they're paying everything, I'm not going to have a water holdback for the seller, because the buyer's acknowledging that they're taking on responsibility. Okay. So that's page one.
So far, any, and I'm sorry to interrupt you early. I apologize. And remember, guys, any questions that you guys have, put them into the Q&A and we'll make sure to get to them.
Yes, we have 15 more minutes. So let me get past this and then we'll go back to questions. All right. So the next one is the municipal lien fee. I have a placeholder at $395. It's just a placeholder, guys. It can go up, it can go down. I adjust it as the lien search comes in and I get that final invoice. And that again is either paid for by the buyer or the seller, however the contract reads. And then I do have a satisfaction tracking to CADIC track on every file that has a payoff. This just gives an extra layer of protection for the title insurance to ensure that that mortgage holder releases that mortgage from the public records within the statutory guidelines. Because we all know that we can pay off a mortgage and it goes to the abyss. They'll acknowledge it and they'll close out the file, but they won't take that extra step in recording it, that satisfaction in the public records. So you as an investor will go ahead and turn, after you have your property, you're fixing it up. 7 months later, you put it on the market, you sell on month 9, and I get the search in for your sale, and it comes up that mortgage is still outstanding. Well, CADITRAC, what they do is they'll start, as soon as the file closes, I send the file over to CADITRAC. They will continue following up with that lender and making sure that they record the satisfaction within the statutory time limit. Okay, and that also ensures that, afterwards that you're clear, you're going to get clear title.
I also want to add something to that. When these types of situation pops up, this is really where your title company is going to shine, because they're going to come up with solutions for you that are going to work for you in that moment to be able to help you actually get closed on time. So that's where, for example, Ariely's title company would be different than Pepe's, title company that you're paying $250 for.
Yes. Okay, so then there's the recording charges. I have a placeholder to record a deed of 3 pages. If I don't have to record an HOA, that'll go down to 2 pages. I also have placeholders when there's a mortgage until I get the actual mortgage in so I can count the pages. Doc stamps, intangible taxes, and doc stamps on the mortgage are all based on those amounts. So on this one, it's 70 cents per $100 to calculate your doc stamps. So if you want to just quick calculations when you're drawing up your contract, it's like, okay, do I really want to pay all the closing costs, or I'll pay all of them except for the doc stamps? What if you're buying like a $600,000 house? That doc stamps goes expensive. All you have to do is take your sales price, multiply that by 0.0070, and that's your estimated doc stamps. This is required across the board. There's nothing we can do about it. The county requires their money. If it's not paid, the deed is rejected and there's no sale. So unfortunately, this part, there's nothing we can do about the fees. No, there's no negotiating. It's the county and what the county requires. And then to record documents, it's e-recording fee because we do use a third party, and it's $10 per document. So we try to keep the documents to a minimum. So if we have multiple affidavits for the seller, we try to put all the bullet points in one affidavit if we can, instead of like different small affidavits. If we can avoid it, if we have to have one affidavit for each of them, then that's what we have to do, but we'll do what we can. And this one, like I said, it was an assignment fee. So this means that they had the contract for the seller at $275. Okay, that's your A and B. They assigned it to the B and C buyer, but they're charging the buyer $20,000 assignment fee, which brings their purchase price to $295. The calculations for the title insurance will be at the $295 and not the $275. There will be an assignment fee listed on the closing statement. I don't do any off HUD closings or fees. So if somebody comes to me and says, I don't want that assignment fee anywhere on the closing statement, sorry, I'm not the girl for you. Everything is disclosed to all parties. Now, the assignment fee is lumped into one, but what if you have 4 partners and each of them get paid out of that $20,000? Very easy. I'm not going to list all 4 partners on the closing statement. I'm going to have a one lump sum of $40,000. You're going to give me what's called a JV agreement. That JV agreement says buyer, my partner 1 gets 4,000, partner 2 gets 5, and so on. It tells me who gets what, and in the back end, I will split that $20,000 between all the investors that were a part of that deal, as long as I have a JV agreement showing what the disbursements are. Okay, and this one does have a mobile notary. We do offer mobile notaries and e-notaries. We are e-notaries. All of us are here in the office are e-notaries. So we can essentially do closings 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter where in the world you are. So that is a major benefit now that e-notaries is allowed. It became legal in 2020, which has been very exciting. So that's an extra benefit if you have a buyer or a seller that says he's in England and I'm not coming back to the country just to sell that one property. Okay, not a problem. I'm not going to send you to the embassy. We'll schedule a time and we'll all log in and we'll do the seller signing that way. It's very easy. All they need is high-speed internet, a camera, and a microphone. That's it. So any questions on the closing statement that I did not go over? I went over the simultaneous and how much the title insurance is on 270 or 295, assignment fees, doc stamps.
I think we're good to go. We do have one question. Deed can be signed electronically, i.e. England. I don't know if that was a question, but yes, that is definitely something that they do. So that's a huge in my particular situations with the deals that I do, I have a lot of heirs that are all over the country, and this is awesome that you do this.
Yes. So the only time I cannot do an e-signing is if the buyer is getting a loan. It's majority can be lenders don't like it because they can't get their note signed, and each particular lender has their own process. Some have hybrid, which means they have their own online portal that you can sign electronically for non-notary portions, and then notaries, you still have to come into the office. So the e-notary is more geared towards sellers to make it easier for sellers, because across the board, I can notarize.
That's awesome.
Any questions? Okay. So getting ready for closing, just to wrap it up, this nice little bow, gather all your information for the lenders quickly. If you're taking on a mortgage for hard money lender, regular lender for your B2C, if you have an end buyer, be on top of their end buyer, make sure they're getting things over to the lender right away. Contact the HOA right away at the moment you get the executed contract, or even before, if you're still doing your research to see if you want to buy that condo, if you want to buy that house in that HOA. Calling the association and say, hey, what do we need to do? So you know a timeline when you're making the offer. Communicate with everybody if you're going on vacation. It's happened, I don't even know how many times. We have a closing date set for 2 months, and then the buyer's on a cruise. So, I mean, just let us know so we can arrange things to make sure that everything is wrapped up for closing. And if not, then we're just going to have to push the closing out a little bit more. But it happens more often than you can imagine. And then confirm wire instructions. Wire fraud is on the rise. I just, not 2 weeks ago, I received a phone call. Hey, I'm on my way to the bank right now to do the wire. Just letting you know. I said, I'm so sorry, you're not ready to close yet. I don't have final figures. I got an email saying that it wasn't from us. He forwarded me that email and wasn't even close to being my email. I took those wire instructions. I went to that bank and I told them that's not an account. They closed that account. They're fraud. I reported them to everybody, but I cannot stress enough, especially if you're using Gmail, Ymail, Hotmail, any free account, your email, even if you have a 2-step authentication, is easily hackable. And they're very, very savvy. They're looking for words like contract, closing date, final amount due, wire instructions, and they're keeping track of your emails and where you are during your closing process. And they will email you like at the right time and make it seem like it's urgent. You got to do this now, so there's no delay in closing. I don't care how urgent it is. You don't call the number that's listed on there. You don't text the number that's listed on there. You call a known number, like your realtor, the title company that you've had communications with this entire time. Forget the email, call them and say, I got this email, just want to verify wire instructions. And it takes an extra step, just one little 5 seconds, and it'll save you. I mean, this guy almost lost $90,000. If he hadn't called me, he would have lost $90,000. So be very, very, very careful. Always verbally verify. Make sure everybody on your contract, sellers, your end buyers, everybody has a valid ID. We can't do anything without a valid ID. Yes, it's still the same person, but it expired 2 days ago. You still need a valid ID. Okay, so make sure it's all there. And any questions?
So, Arlie, that was a ton of I'm going to give you some quick rapid fire questions I always get.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're going to it's going to be 1-sentence answers, not because I know it's a lot more complicated. If you quick claim a property out of your personal name to your mortgage, what happens to title insurance?
You're going back from the
you bought it in your personal name and you want to quick claim it to an LLC.
Oh, an LLC. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So trusts, you can change it over and not void. It'll go through the treaty and it'll still be covered. I actually had something like that come up a couple weeks ago. If you're changing it out of your name completely, then the title insurance is no more, and hopefully that will, you're still clear. If not, then you would have to get a new title insurance.
It's just that we see it a lot in asset protection. People are telling them one thing and they don't realize what's happening on the other. I know you talked about associations. The other one is you're doing a double closing, right? And the association wants an approval. Do you need 2 approvals for the closing, right? A to B, I'm selling it I'm the seller, Antonio's buying it.
If you have no intention on buying it, if your exit plan is if you don't find a buyer, you're done, you're not going to, then you don't need to go through the approval process. If you say, you know, there might be a little bit, I'm going to try to sell it to B and C, you know, assign it out. But if not, there's still enough money there for me to rehab it. And, you know, then you're going to have to go through the approval process just in case you don't get that.
If there's actually, I'm sorry, let me restate the question. Let's say it's an actual double closing, making too much money, right? So Antonio selling for 75,000, we're buying it for 150, or I'm buying it for 75 from Antonio. I sell it to Jenny for 150, and the association needs approval process.
Yes. So approval is approval. If you have two separate closings, you have to go through the whole process 2 separate times.
Yeah, it's massive.
Separate.
We always get that question and try to get, talk to realtor or associations like Antonio was saying. Some of these guys, they don't even understand, like, who's buying it? I'm confused. Yeah. Why is there two contracts?
Associations can waive it. Say, okay, we know that we'll waive it for you as long as we close with the end buyer, knowing that you're not going to take possession at all. But that's a conversation you have to have with the association to make sure that they'll do it. If not, you're going to have to go through the approval process, unfortunately, and then close again. And
my last question on the rapid fire is, I'm doing an A to B to C closing, right? I'm doing a flip, same day closing. Can I use the end buyer's money to close?
No, sorry. I will not close you. You're going to have a transactional funder, and I know a great transactional funder.
Yeah, we do that all day. So I just wanted, like, those are some of the rapid fire questions I got. So I just wanted to run through it. And we're actually out of time too. Look at that.
Yeah, right on time. Look at that.
Fantastic. I know Alexa has.
Well, did it freeze, or is it just? Oh, yes. Sorry. I think I froze there for a second. So I have a winner, and you guys, please go to Arlie's website. It's conciergetitle.us. Go follow her on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, get connected with her. Like she said, I just want to highlight one thing she said. She's willing and able to answer questions for you guys, whether she has the file or not. Like, I don't want you guys to bombard her. I just want to say, you guys, please be respectful if you're going to her and asking her questions. But I mean, those are the kind of vendors that we love and appreciate so much here at BPM RIA. They're not only, invested in your education, but making sure you guys are doing the right thing and that you guys are educated on the services that they offer. So that was just, thank you so much, Arlie. I just had to say that one little thing right there. But yes, I do have a winner. Congratulations. I think, yep, right here. Elizabeth S. Yes, that's the winner. Congratulations, Elizabeth. 1-year membership. Congratulations. I'll be in touch with you, Elizabeth, if she's in. Yeah, she's in here. So yes, you guys, I recorded today's session. I know some of you are messaging about the recording. It'll be posted within 24 to 48 hours. So please go subscribe to the YouTube channel, and thank you guys so much for the questions. Absolutely incredible. Antonio, Arlie, Anish, thank you guys so much. It is a pleasure to learn from you guys and the relationships you guys have built, both professionally and personally. Like, just something for all of us to admire and, to do ourselves, because that's what business is about, right? Like, those relationships are key. And Jenny, thank you so much. Shout out in the chat, answering questions for people. A lot of you guys know Jenny. She's always at the in-persons. And yes, Elizabeth, yay, what congrats.
Awesome. And I want to again thank Antonio and Arlie for obviously Arlie taking the time and educating us. Yes. Made title somewhat exciting. And no, as I'm joking about, so guys, you're not going to learn title. The point of this webinar is to have a teammate like Arlie. Yep. She's going to do all that work for you. I can't even tell you how many times she's like, hey, did you see that? Did you miss that? And I don't have to be a title expert. So I think it's just very important. And that's why I value her, speaking at the BPM RIA. And I want to thank Antonio for choosing this webinar. And again, if there's any other webinars that you guys want to hear, first of all, you better give us a 5-star Google review on the webinars and let us know. Again, it's your RIA. So any final words, Antonio, Arlie?
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. I was a little nervous, but Antonio, you did great. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I mean,
We fed off each other just fine.
it's easy when it is so valuable. It's easy.
And
So,
organic. You guys
yeah.
are doing deals right now, so that helps. Thank you guys.
Correct. Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
literally working on some deals. So thank you, Arlie. Appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
so much.
You know what? Before, and the one thing I did forget. So Arlie does do regular realtor deals too. I know some of you guys are realtors also. I know. Do you want to just go really a couple of services you offer? Because I don't want everyone to think you only do investor deals too.
Yeah, no, regular deals, commercial, residential, buyers, sellers, seller documents, refinances, literally anything that requires title, I will do. And I also, if you have a closing that the title company does not offer e-notary, I'm more than happy to help you get that deal closed, and I will close that, I will sign with the seller's e-notary and just send the invoice over to the title company. It's not a big deal. We can get that done for you guys too. So I named it concierge title for a reason. What do you need? And you let me know and we'll figure out a resolution.
I love that so much. Thank you so much, Arlie, Antonio, Anish, you guys, everyone who's in here. Thank you. Please 5-star Google review. Link is in the chat. If you love this webinar, please let us know. Go follow Arlie. And lastly, go register for the monthly meeting tomorrow night. See you guys here tomorrow, 7 p.m. on Zoom. Have a great day, you guys. Back to reality. Let's go. We got this.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.